wow, you're trying to start a YouTube channel, Joyous? Like, what the heck? That's so stupid. No one's gonna listen to you, you know? How embarrassing to think that you're gonna get a following and like make a living off of this, you know? That's what that's what my imagination, that's what my imagination was telling me. Hello everyone, my name is Joyous. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna be talking about how not to feel embarrassed when going after the things that you desire. So for me, I'll tell an embarrassing story just to start us off. But I remember back in high school, I was at this new school and I was a cheerleader. And I was in a new town too. And I remember like prepping for this one pep rally and like doing the whole cheer, and like I was supposed to hold up a sign, you know, for I forgot what it said. I completely forgot what it said. But basically I was holding up a word and I was supposed to hold this word up, and I held the sign upside down and the entire crowd laughed at me. And like for a few seconds I didn't understand why everyone was laughing until I like peeked down at my own letter and saw that it was upside down, right? And I just remember feeling so embarrassed and humiliated for the rest of the day. And a couple months later, I made a few new friends at this high school, and like I remember bringing the story up to them and they were like, we don't even remember you doing this. Like, we don't even really remember this situation. And I was like, oh, okay. And that taught me, first off, after that humiliating moment, like I felt weirdly very confident at the school because I already messed up. Like I already made a huge mistake, and I already showed that I'm human. Like I'm not perfect. So like it was like, what's the worst thing that could happen moving forward after this sign thing taking place, right? And yeah, I also learned that like nobody cares or remembers most of the stuff that we think are like really huge things in our life, even though they are like really huge, like impactful moments. Like this was a core memory for me, holding this sign upside down. I just wanted to share that story. That's like an embarrassing story that happened to me. And yeah, we're going to talk about today how embarrassment is actually a social emotion. It's not a basic emotion, but a social emotion. People who are embarrassed are more concerned with following social norms and are more afraid of being rejected, and also how our imagination can get the best of us. And finally, we're going to talk about some steps on how to not feel embarrassed. So today, we're going to be talking about first how embarrassment is a social emotion. And there are these basic emotions that we have, like fear, happiness, hunger. That's not an emotion. But like there's some very basic emotions that we have that came with us from, you know, primitive times, you know, like running away from a lion or finding food. Like fear and joy are things that are basic human reaction to stuff. Also, anxiety, I feel like, is a pretty basic thing. You know, when you're afraid that someone's gonna show up and kill you while you're sleeping in your cave, or an animal's gonna come and find you. Like, that's a very primitive, basic emotion. These social emotions have evolved to protect us in the wild, wild west when it comes to civilization and civilized thinking or whatever, right? So, let me show you the difference between embarrassment and just maybe like frustration or like anger. I think I don't know if that's a basic emotion or not, but so let's say you spill your food while you're home alone. That's frustrating. That's annoying. You're pissed that you spilled your food. You know, that's something that took place, you know. But let's say you spill your food while you're in a restaurant. That's embarrassing, right? You can feel the embarrassment, you know, like you dropped your food, or you like, what's it called? Cracked a cup or whatever, like a glass cup. You shattered a glass. That's embarrassing because there's these people around you and you're thinking to yourself like, oh my God, what do these people think about me? You know, like I feel like, and I feel like there can be a little embarrassment with the spilling food at home if there's like a stain that other people are going to have to see when they come over. That's embarrassment. So embarrassment only comes in when there's other people around us, you know? And for me, I noticed that I have a very baseline feeling of embarrassment at my new job because I don't know everything. And sometimes I mess up, and I'm human, you know? And I remember we were in this long meeting a couple days ago, and I had this urge to like, I don't know if you get this too, or I don't know if anyone else gets this, but I've heard of people getting this. But like, whenever you're in a civil setting, there's this urge to do something totally that like messes up the balance of things. Like that just messes up all the social norms. Like, what if I just farted really loud right now? Like, what if I just farted, just really loud while I'm in this like corporate meeting? And I think that for me, like, that comes up all the time whenever I'm at work. I'm like, what if I just do something so crazy right now? Like, what if I run around naked in my office? Like, I'm not having the actual urge to do this, but these thoughts come up or whatever, right? But for me, I was in this long meeting and I didn't really have much to say or contribute to the conversation. And that was very embarrassing. And I was wishing to myself that I had a fart to hold in at that moment so that I could focus on holding in the fart than being embarrassed about the fact that I'm not saying anything. Like, I wanted to focus way more on, conflating social norms or like, not messing up social norms than it was the rejection of not feeling like I knew what I was talking about, or knew what was going on in the meeting, right? So rejection is like the worst, like when we're going to talk about social norms and rejection, like I feel like conflating social norms or messing up social norms, people do that all the time and like make money off of it, or people like, yell, or like, I don't know, like there's social norms that weren't social norms beforehand that were now made because of someone else conflating or like, pushing past social norms. And I have a few more examples of what social norms look like. I'm going to go over one about Miley Cyrus, and I have a few more to go over in this video. So stay tuned. Like, I think of Miley Cyrus, who broke social norms when she like twerked on Robin Thicke on that stage. Like, I don't know if she like really pioneered something per se, other than her own breakaway from the Hannah Montana good girl thing that she was doing, beforehand. But breaking social norms can sometimes be effective in getting something across, while feeling rejection is just something that's not very like helpful or healthy or whatever. So people who get like have more embarrassment or like who feel more embarrassed a lot of the time, like I know this is like I can feel embarrassed pretty easily, like if someone actually watches a video of mine, I need to like work on my feelings of embarrassment. But people who are embarrassed are more concerned with following social norms and they're more afraid of rejection. And I just want to talk about how no one changes anything by staying in the norms. Like, for example, Steve Jobs. He created Apple. He created the products that I'm using right now to put this video, or most of the products I'm using right now to put this video together, right? And Steve Jobs, like, he broke social norms and like what he thought computers should look like and like what he thought computerization and, all that technology should be. But a social norm that he, completely for his own personal sake, he used to, whenever he would get stressed out, he would get away from his desk, walk over to the restroom, and take off his shoe and stick his foot in the toilet. This is cited in his like confirmed biography of him. He would go put his foot in the toilet. What the heck? What the heck? And he broke a social norm doing that, right? Rosa Parks, there was a social norm back then where colored people would sit in the back of the bus. She broke that social norm that one moment and sat in the front of the bus she just sat down because she was tired. I sat in a seat she wasn't supposed to. Now we got equality. Now we have equality. Now we have like she fought racism and like she helped with the Montgomery bus protest boycott. Like, that is crazy how she broke that one social norm and was able to like make it in the history books, Also, Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was someone that, he did the Mona Lisa. He was a painter, whatever. But what he's really known for is his contributions to medicine, at least in the medical world. He's really known for his contributions to the medical world because he was so obsessed with drawing human body parts. And he would collect body parts, and like people would think he was doing witchcraft or something. It was pretty illegal, from what I understand, at the time that he was doing this. So he would, take these body parts and draw them or like inspect them, and he would get these crazy drawings of the human figure. And that was against social norms. And he, is now in the textbooks. Now, these people that I've mentioned are all in the history textbooks for staying out of the social norm. Another thing that I need to remember a lot of times, like when I feel afraid of rejection, rejection is a form of redirection. Like, let's say right now you're watching this video, you have accepted me this far, right? And this video is being pushed out to other people that are rejecting me through the thumbnail, or rejecting me in the first few seconds, or, not watching this thing fully through, right? Rejection is redirection. It's not something to avoid. Like, there's no way that we can get to the point where we are accepted by an audience or accepted by a group of people without trying out all these different people. Like, we're not living in villages anymore where we only have the 50 people that are around us to accept us. Like, we're not, embarrassment, that used to be a very big thing because you were stuck with those people for life, Now we live in the day and age where there's millions of people around us. We can move to a different city at a drop of a dime. Like money wise. And yeah, like there's just so many different ways that we can find a group that's more fitting for us, that's more authentic for us. And if you're a content creator, like, I just want to say everybody has an audience, and like also everyone has a family, even if you don't, like, if you're looking for a found family, like, these are things that you can find, but being authentic leads you to finding these things sooner. So I'm okay with people rejecting my thumbnail or rejecting my video premise because you're watching right now and I know that you are enjoying this or accepting me thus far. So, on the topic of social norms and rejection, we also have a cognitive bias of seeing the worst in ourselves as a survival mechanism. Like, back in the day when there were only 50 people in the village that we were around, we were very cognizant of not doing anything embarrassing or, not doing anything that's a faux pas because it's a survival mechanism. You could be kicked out of your village if you do something too out of the social norms. You could be killed. Thinking about the Salem witch trials, like, you look a little weird and like you could be hung, back then. And our brains are still like, we can still be like expunged or like kicked out of certain things because of the social norms but it's a lot less than we think. And we're going to go into this now where imagination can really get the best of us, and our cognitive biases, like, we are tending to see the worst in ourselves. But yeah, our imagination can also get the best of us. So sometimes we imagine what people think of us, or like what people will think when they find out that we're working on something. Like, we imagine they're going to be like, oh, wow, you're trying to start a YouTube channel, Joyous? Like, what the heck? That's so stupid. No one's going to listen to you, How embarrassing to think that you're going to get a following and like make a living off of this, That's what that's what my imagination, that's what my imagination was telling me when I was really trying to get this thing started. And let's say, okay, you tell someone in your life that you've started a YouTube channel or you're working on a project or you're doing something and they respond as negatively as your brain imagined they would. You don't need that person in your life and you don't need to prove anything to them. That person has already shown you that they're not on your side, and like, it could be good to have differing opinions in your life. Like, that's healthy, but there's a difference between like someone who has a different opinion than you and somebody that is just not rooting for you, So even if they do think poorly of you, you don't need to prove anything to them and you don't need to, have them in your life, or like have them in this part of your life at the very least, right? Also, imagination is not reality. Like, imagination is not reality. We can sit and imagine the outcomes. We can sit and imagine millions of outcomes to the actions that we do. But the reality is the reality. It's what's in front of you, what we can see, hear, touch, and feel. And our imagination sometimes can get the best of us, Like, for example, for me, there was a couple days ago, I was like driving in my car and like, I live in a very like busy city. And I remember like a traffic filled city. And I remember like there were these cars in between me and I just couldn't stop imagining how the car next to me was going to swerve into my lane suddenly and crash into me. Like, that's all I could think about. So much so that I started veering away from them and was like close to crashing into somebody else. Like, staying in your imagination can actually very much ruin you, like it's not like, and I feel like there's a difference between like creative thinking or visualization or like just being in your imagination just to be in your imagination is actually detrimental. Like, that's why there's maladaptive daydreaming. But steps to not feel embarrassed. I want to like pose a question to you. Or this is a question you can pose to yourself. How would I feel if I were to be proud of myself after achieving all of these desires? How would it feel for you to be proud of yourself after achieving your desired goals? So in this scenario, I'm going to ask you to imagine, what would it feel like to have the success take place? Feel it in your body. Close your eyes and like actually imagine you're accepting the award, or you just saw you got so many subscribers, or something happened, like whatever that you're looking at. How would you feel, and how would it feel to feel like that right now? Like, name that emotion, and actually like try to find different ways to get that emotion going in your life. And I'm going to have a video talking about how to feel successful. I think that's one of my next videos coming up. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to feel successful before that success, those goals that you're going for that come out, Also, the next step is to ask yourself, would you feel embarrassed if no one was watching you do what you do? So for me right now, like, no one's watching me do these videos. Like, no one's really watching it. Like, no one in my life, like, I'm alone in my room right now, and I'm going to be alone editing this, I'm not embarrassed by doing these things. And even if I were to get a big following or whatever, I don't know if I'm going to feel embarrassed per se, but ask yourself, like, would you feel embarrassed if no one was watching you do what you do, And this question should pose to you, like, whether or not you're doing something for social connection, or like you're doing something for yourself, you're doing something to like get what you want, and if you were to do it by yourself, like, how would that make you feel? Like, would you feel calmer, get into a sense of calm when you're doing stuff like this? Like, before this video, I had to take a few deep breaths. Like, I was going to stop. Like, I had put the makeup on, I had put my camera up and ready. And for whatever reason, I was about to stop and be like, I don't want to do this. This is embarrassing. But I asked myself, like, who am I embarrassed? Like, is anyone here? No one's here. No one's going to watch this. Or like, no one in my life is watching this right now, other than my mom. My mom's always in the comments. Thank you, Mom. Anyway, another step you can do to not feel embarrassed is read about people's stories before they got successful, and people that are specifically in your industry, and like learn about their story. For example, Doechii has a video series on her creative journey. When it comes to like, what's it called? The Artist's Way, like her going through the Artist's Way. And that's a very helpful situation, just so you can see like how lonely or how awkward or how weird and cringe their life was before they got the accolades. Like, for example, for me, like, I don't even want to be a spiritual teacher. Like, I don't want to be a spirituality teacher. Like, it's never been like my dream as a little child was to be a spirituality teacher. And I find myself every time I'm making a video or like anything I'm doing, like in my free time, I read about spirituality books. Like, that's the most annoying thing to me, is like, I can't help but to think about spirituality all the time, or like, not even self-development, but like the spirituality of a person, like, how are you flowing through life? I can't help but to think about this stuff. So I read about different spiritual teachers. They're like, their stories beforehand. Like, for me, Teal Swan is someone that I don't really want to like connect to, but hearing her story before she became this, and like seeing some of her older videos, I'm like, oh, oh, okay, maybe. And like, yeah, I don't know. Just read about the people's story that are in your industry, and like understand that you're not alone in this industry, and you're not alone in doing this. The next step is to be confident, and confidence means being relaxed in the present moment. And this can look like just feeling relaxed as you're doing whatever you're doing, taking a few deep breaths beforehand. And I want to talk about overconfidence and underconfidence, and how overconfidence and underconfidence can lead to crappy performance. There was a time in my life where I was overconfident. I was overconfident in this startup that I was working on. And overconfidence leads you to not seeing the blind spots or not seeing your weaknesses towards whatever you're working towards. And you're just basing your ideas off of your imagination again, right? While underconfidence, and there's some time I am very underconfident when it comes to my YouTube channel, where my imagination gets the best of me again, and I am sitting around here like, oh, no one's gonna watch my videos. Oh, like, I'm gonna have, like, not 0 subscribers, but I'm gonna have a low amount of subscribers and, like, low views for the rest of my life, no matter how many videos I post. That underconfidence leads to crappy performance as well. So, for me, now, all I have to do is be confident and relax in the present moment about what I'm working on at the moment, or, like, what my next video is gonna be about, and do that, you know? The second to last thing I want to talk about, or one of the last things I want to talk about, is have faith. In what? I don't really care. I don't really care what you have faith in. I would prefer you to have faith in yourself, but if you have a faith outside of yourself, like a religion or something, lean into it. You know, find the scriptures that are, like, for example, I pulled up one for this video. I was born and raised Christian. I wouldn't consider myself a Christian anymore, but I still, that's the teachings that I was brought up in. So, like, Christianity is something that I can easily tap into. Anyway, Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. So faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Like, not feeling embarrassed means having faith that what you're working on matters. Having faith in, like, what you're doing is important to you at the very least. And, like, not seeing things, like having, like, leaning into the unseen. Like, even though, reality is important to us, like, we build our own reality. We don't see the future. We cannot see the future. Having faith in the unseen and having faith in, like, what's not reality yet means being confident and making confident moves right now in this reality. Second to last thing I want to talk about is moving in silence. Stop looking for people's approval. Unless the person is proven to be supportive, Like, for me, I enjoy talking about my videos with my mom because she's very supportive about them. I'm not going to talk about it with some other family member per se. I'm not going to say who I wouldn't, but because I know they would not express as much support towards what I'm doing or what I'm talking about in my videos, or they wouldn't really watch them because they're not really interested in the things I'm talking about. Me and my mom are pretty synced up on stuff like this for the most part. So I enjoy talking about this stuff with her. But other than that, I don't talk about my YouTube channel with anybody. I don't mention it to anybody because I don't want their energy to mess with how I feel about what I'm working on, Like, I don't want, the smallest thing can mess up my mood. Like, oh, that's cute. Patronizing me or, like, belittling what I'm doing. Oh, that's cute. That'll piss me off. Anyway, the last thing I want to talk about is this system for growth and success that I learned about from this book called Condensed Chaos, and it's called DRAT. So DRAT stands for discipline, relaxation, attentiveness, and transformation. So you need to be disciplined. Discipline meaning devoted to whatever you're going for. You need to be relaxed, and you need to be attentive towards your goal, and to be attentive towards what you are be attentive towards whatever it is that you're focused on, not just attentive all the time, but being sensitive to different situations and being sensitive to, like, am I doing this right? Is my watch retention or my watch rate okay? Is my, like, just actually being attentive towards how people are actually perceiving what you're working on. And I'm bringing up watch time because that's something I'm working on right now, is, like, being attentive towards my YouTube channel and seeing which videos pop off and which ones don't, Pop off 30 views. But that's a high video thing for me. Whatever. So being attentive, being disciplined. So, like, sticking to what you want to do, sticking it out, And I'm going to do a video talking about how to listen to your inner being, because I think there's a little bit of a confusion between, and, like, something that I had to work through as I was working on that video was, like, there's how do I just do things? Like, how do I stick to be disciplined, but also listen to my inner being and know when to rest or know when to, like, not do something, And I'm going to talk about that in another video. So stay tuned, subscribe to this channel. But yeah, discipline, relaxation, that goes in with the confidence thing that I mentioned. Attentiveness, and all these three things lead to transformation, the T. So you need discipline, relaxation, attentiveness to lead to the transformation. And I'm going to end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Goodbye.